Namaste aspirants, welcome to Prime Time by CivicCentre IAS of week 9 of subject Science and Technology and Environment and Ecology using 10 plus years of UPSC reverse engineering, PYQ mastery and real-time current affairs tracking from The Hindu, Indian Express, PIB, ISRO, WHO and other sources all filtered for you. These are the hand-picked 8 high weightage topics plus one bonus topic of importance that dominated this week. The topics are record rise of CO2 levels in 2024, WMO warnings, LCA Tejas Mk1A, India's expanding green footprint, INS Vikrant, Chandrayaan 2 detects solar storm striking the moon, 23 for 23 initiative, Central Asian Mammals Initiative, Saranda Wildlife Sanctuary, and the topic of importance, which is antimicrobial resistance, a growing global health threat. Let's start with the first topic of the week. Record rise of CO2 levels in 2024, WMO warnings. The biggest environmental red flag of 2024, the WMO Greenhouse Gas Bulletin has been released. The WMO Greenhouse Gas Bulletin said the continued emissions of CO2 from human activities and upsurge from wildlife fires were responsible, as well as reduced CO2 absorption by sinks such as land ecosystems and the ocean in what threatens to be a vicious climate change. What are the key facts in this particular report or in the bulletin? CO2 concentration in 2024 recorded to be 423.9 ppm, which is a record rise of 3.5 ppm from 2023. This is also the highest annual increase since the measurements began in 1957. In 1985, if you look at the graph, in 1985, this was around 345.72 ppm. This has been a 152% higher ppm than the pre-industrial levels, which is 278.3 ppm. 2024 is said to be the warmest year recorded, as there was a rise of 1.55 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. This has been the first time 1.5 limit has been breached for an entire year, as in the Paris Agreement, which has been declared as 1.5 degrees. The CO2 concentrations have been consistently increasing over the years. There has been no decline of this in the last 40 years. The methane levels has rose to 1942 ppb, whereas the nitrous oxide rose to 338 ppb. If you look at the graph, the CO2 alone is about 66% of the total global warming, whereas methane accounts for 16%, nitrous oxide accounts for around 6%, and the other CFCs, HFCs and HCFCs, which account for around 11%. What are the main sources for these emissions? The main sources include burning of fossil fuels, that is coal, oil, gas, deforestation, cement production, industrial process, which can be said as anthropogenic factors, that are man-made factors. The other factors such as respiration, volcanic eruptions, wildfires, decomposition of organic matter and ocean releases, they are the natural factors that affect the rise of CO2 levels. What is the impact of this increased concentration of carbon dioxide? The Earth emits infrared radiation. CO2 traps out the ongoing infrared radiation from the Earth's surface, which intensifies the greenhouse effect, and this in turn increases the mean global temperature. Each ppm increase of CO2 enhances the radiative force of around 0.01 watt per meter square. Heat waves, droughts, wildfires and glacial melts get intensified because of this higher concentration of CO2. So dissolved CO2 forms carbonic acid, which affects the marine biodiversity. This also increases in rise in sea level as well as ocean acidification, which affects the chloral bleaching as well as the marine biodiversity loss. What are the various initiatives taken by India to reduce CO2 emissions? National Hydrogen Mission of 2021. The target is around 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen to be produced by 2030 and replacing coal in steel and transport. FAME 2. Faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. 1.5 million electric vehicles have been supported and the CO2 reduction is around 2 million metric tons annually. International Solar Alliance. Here 100 plus countries have been participating. One Sun, One World, One Grid, that is the transnational solar grid, is adopted in this International Solar Alliance. National Action Plan on Climate Change, NAPCC. It has around 8 missions. 100 gigawatts has to be produced by 2030, of which 82 gigawatts have been already produced. Green India mission of 2.5 million hectares forest area has to be covered. Mission Life, Lifestyle for Environment. It says there shall be a behavioral change of reduce, reuse and recycle the products. It has been launched in COP27. Carbon Credit Trading System 2023. It is India's first carbon market. The next topic is LCA Tejas Mk1A. The Indigenous. It has been in news recently as the Indigenous Light Combat Aircraft Tejas Mk1A undertook its first public sortie at HAL's Nasik facility. This event has been marked the inauguration of third Tejas production line and second production line for HTT-40 basic trainer aircraft. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh termed it as a shining symbol of India's self-reliance in defense. The key facts. It has been developed by HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Aeronautical Development Agency under DRDO. It is a 4.5 generation single-engine multi-role fighter aircraft. Air-to-air, air-to-ground and precision strike missions. The production capacity in Nasik line, 8 to 10 aircrafts can be produced per year, with around 24 per year total across the HAL. Pre-flight trials successfully has been completed with deliveries expected soon after certification. The significance of LCA Tejas Mk1A. It strengthens Atmanirbhar Bharat and defense indigenization. It reduces import dependence, which was 70% of imports in 2024 to 65% of domestic in 2025. In fact, Tejas is replacing MiG-21, which is been retiring in 2025-27. It also enhances Make in India and defense exports goals with target of around 3 lakh crore production and 50,000 crore exports by 2029. Malaysia, Argentina and Egypt have expressed their interest in acquiring the Indian-made Tejas light combat aircraft. Argentina and Egypt are in advanced talks for potential procurement. The next topic is India's expanding green footprint. It has been in news recently as FAO has released Global Forest Resources Assessment GFRA 2025 in Bali. India has moved up to 9th position globally in the total forest area, and India continues to rank 3rd globally in annual forest gain and is now the 5th among total global carbon sinks, removing around 150 million tons of carbon dioxide per year in 2021-2025. If you can see this, India has been third rank in globally annual forest gain of with around 191,000 hectares per year, immediately after China and Russian Federation. In the carbon sinks, India is after Russian Federation, China, United States, Brazil, and is ranked 5th with around 140 million tons of CO2. About GFRA 2025. It is published by Food and Agriculture Organization UN. The purpose is to track forest area, use, management, and carbon balance globally. With data from around 236 countries. The latest edition, GFRA 2025, marks the 80th anniversary edition. It supports SDG 15, Life on Land, and Paris Agreement. The world's total forest area stands at approximately 4.14 billion hectares, accounting for about 32% of the total land area. India's performance in GFRA 2025. The total forest area has been said to be around 72.7 million hectares. The carbon sink rank is around 5th globally. The top 3 states with forest is Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh. India and Indonesia together contribute around 70% of the global agroforestry area. India ranks 5th globally with 831,000 hectares of rubber plantation. What are the key drivers for India's forest expansion? National Mission for Green India. It targeted around 5 million hectares by 2030. It also enhances the ecosystem services. National Afforestation Program. It funds plantations on degraded lands. CAMPA funds. Compensatory Afforestation Fund Management and Planning Authority. It funds of around 50,000 crores that has been collected in 2016 to 25 for compensatory afforestation. Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam. 15 crore trees has been planted alone in 2024 for mass community drive. Vandhan Yojana. Tribal livelihoods via non-timber forest products. Mary Life Portal. It tracks personal carbon footprint and its ties to Mission Life, lifestyle for environment. The next topic is INS Vikrant. PM Modi celebrated Diwali 2025 on board of India's first aircraft carrier, which is INS Vikrant. He interacted with Army, Naval, and Air Force personnel. He acknowledged the Operation Sindoor, a tri-service surgical strike showcasing its coordination. He also said INS Vikrant is a floating symbol of Atmanirbhar Bharat and India's rising maritime power. He emphasized India's defense self-reliance and growing defense exports. India now exports to around 75 plus countries, and BrahMos, Akash, and Tejas are in demand. About INS Vikrant. It is first indigenously built aircraft carrier in India. It represents self-reliance, naval modernization, and India's maritime aspirations. It has been built by Cochin Shipyard Limited and designed by Indian Navy's Warship Design Bureau. It has been commissioned on 2nd September 2022 at Kochi. The key facts of this particular INS Vikrant. The aircraft capacity is up to 30 aircrafts. The propulsion speed is of around 4 gas turbines with maximum speed of 28 knots. The carrier is of 262.5 meters in length and 61.6 meters wide and has a displacement of 45,000 tons. The ship can accommodate 16,000 personnel. INS Vikrant operates on short takeoff but arrested recovery system. This allows aircraft to take off using a sky jump and land with the help of a arrestor wires. The next topic is Chandrayaan 2 detects solar storms striking the moon. ISRO has announced that Chandra's atmospheric composition explorer CHASE-2 aboard of Chandrayaan 2 orbiter has made the first ever direct observation of Sun's coronal mass ejection, which impacts the moon's exosphere. This marks major milestone in lunar and space weather, enhancing India's scientific contribution to planetary sciences. About Chandrayaan 2. It has been launched on 22nd July 2019 using GSLV Mark III vehicle. The components include orbiter, Vikrant lander, and Pragyan rover. Orbiter has been functioning and continuous scientific observations are done. The objective is to study lunar topography, exosphere, surface mineralogy, and solar-lunar interactions. About CHASE 2. It is a neutral gas mass spectrometer. It studies the composition, density, and variation of the lunar exosphere. The moon's atmosphere is extremely thin. The mass range is studied of around 1 to 300 atomic mass units. It is developed by Space Physics Laboratory ISRO. The predecessors are CHASE 1 in Chandrayaan 1 and Menaka in Mars Orbiter mission. What are the key discoveries of the 2024 coronal mass ejection event? It has been observed on 10th May 2024. A coronal mass ejection, a blast of plasma from Sun, has directly impacted the Moon. CHASE 2 has recorded a 10-fold increase in the neutral atom density of the Moon's exosphere. The total pressure on the sunlit side of the Moon has rose significantly. This occurs because the Moon lacks magnetic field, so solar particles directly interact with its surface, knocking off the atoms and increasing the exosphere density. What is this coronal mass ejection? A coronal mass ejection is the eruption of highly magnetized plasma from Sun's corona. Particles travel at the speed of up to millions of kilometers per hour, reaching Earth in around 13 hours to 5 days. On Earth, it is protected by atmosphere and the magnetic field. Whereas if you take the Moon directly gets exposed and alters the exosphere and surface chemistry. The next topic is hashtag 23 for 23 initiative. India celebrated International Snow Leopard Day on October 23, 2025 with a nationwide hashtag 23 for 23 campaign. It is the first ever national snow leopard census recorded 718 individual snow leopards across the Indian Himalayas. This initiative was led by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The awareness drive include 23 minutes of physical activity to promote snow leopard conservation on 23rd of October. The goal is to boost community participation under GSLEP, the 12 Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program under the 12 range countries which include India, China and Bhutan. So the key census findings in 2025 include the Ladakh has around 477 snow leopards out of the total 718 snow leopards. Uttarakhand accounts for 71, Himachal Pradesh 51, Jammu and Kashmir 58, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim together has around 61 snow leopards. What are about the snow leopards? The high altitude, it lives in the high altitude Himalayan regions with around 3000 to 5000 meters above the sea level. It is distributed across Ladakh, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh in India. IUCN has declared it to be vulnerable. It is a solitary, stealthy, nocturnal predator known as the ghost of the mountains. It has a thick, smoky grey fur with dark rhotices and it cannot roar. It breeds every 2 years, hence it has a slow population recovery. The significance. It marks India's commitment to conserving high altitude biodiversity under Global Snow Leopard Ecosystem Protection Program. It is the first science-based nationwide estimate to guide targeted conservation. It strengthens India's role in transboundary conservation efforts across Central and South Asia. The next topic is Central Asian Mammals Initiative. Central Asian nations, including India, has endorsed a 6-year transboundary conservation plan under the Central Asian Mammals Initiative. The plan aims to protect 17 migratory and nomadic mammal species across Central Asia's deserts, steppes, and mountain ecosystems. A regional conservation framework under the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. It focuses on protecting migratory connectivity of large mammals that transverse political boundaries in Central Asia. It has been launched in 2014 and revised during COP13. The members include the Central Asian nations, including India, Mongolia, China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Iran. The aim of this program is to preserve migratory routes and habitats of mammals across Central Asia, to mitigate threats such as habitat fragmentation, illegal hunting, poaching, and climate change. This enhances transboundary cooperation and ensures ecological connectivity for shared species. Under this initiative, there are 17 flagship migratory mammals, including snow leopards, wild camels, saiga antelopes, Argali sheep, Bukhara deers, Persian leopards. This also promotes cross-border coordination via national action plans, data sharing and research collaboration, removal of physical barriers like fences and infrastructures for the free movement of mammals, community engagement, and sustainable land use. It also adopts an ecosystem based management approach instead of a single species protection. This protects the Serengeti of the North, which is the one of the largest remaining landscapes for long distance migrations. It strengthens ecological connectivity across Central Asia and the Himalaya. This aids species adaptation to climate change and reduces biodiversity loss. It reinforces India's commitment under COP13 to regional wildlife conservation. The next topic is Saranda Wildlife Sanctuary. Saranda Wildlife Sanctuary has been in news recently because the Supreme Court directed the Jharkhand government to give an undertaking to notify 314 square kilometers of Saranda Forest Division as a wildlife sanctuary. This order has followed the National Green Tribunal's directions to protect biodiversity-rich Sal forest, which has been affected by illegal mining and habitat degradation. About this Saranda forest, it is located in West Singham district of Jharkhand near the Odisha border. Saranda means land of 700 hills. The area is around 856 square kilometers and it is one of the India's largest contiguous sal forests. What is the ecological role for these particular forests? It is a major elephant habitat with 3 different elephant corridors. It is home to four-horned antelope, sloth bear, leopards, and rich avifauna. It is part of Eastern Ghats and Chota Nagpur biodiversity landscape. The ecological importance is it is very rich in flora and fauna and the diversity of sal forests. It is crucial for elephant migration connecting Jharkhand, Odisha and Chhattisgarh forests. This forest headwaters of several rivers and streams which is supporting the local communities. Studies by Wildlife Institute of India shows decline in butterflies, birds and mammals due to mining and fragmentation in this particular area. Saranda forest holds of around 26% of India's iron ore reserves. Illegal mining has been highlighted by Justice M.B. Shah Commission in 2013, which leads to loss of forest cover, decline in wildlife density, soil and water pollution. The ICFRE's carrying capacity study and WII reports recommended limiting mining and declaring no-go zones for ecological safety in this particular area.
Hello everyone. As you all know, Civil Services Prime Time is one of its kind initiative where we are teaching the students current affairs related to the particular subject one day at a time. అంటే ఒక వారంలో జరిగిన కరెంట్ అఫైర్స్ అన్ని ఒక సబ్జెక్ట్ కి సంబంధించి మేము ఒక రోజులో చెప్తున్నాం. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ ఆల్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ద రివర్స్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ టెక్నిక్. బికాస్ మీరు ప్రతి వీడియో చూసినట్టయితే ఎండ్లో ప్రీవియస్ ఇయర్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ప్రిలిమ్స్ చేస్తున్నాము, అలాగే ఒక క్వశ్చన్ మెయిన్స్ చేస్తున్నాం. సో ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు గెట్ డైలీ అప్డేట్స్ అట్ 7 o'clock షార్ప్ యాజ్ వీఆర్ డూయింగ్ ఇట్, సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకోండి, అలాగే బెల్ కూడా క్లిక్ చేయండి సో దట్ 7 o'clock కి మీకు ఇమీడియట్ గా నోటిఫికేషన్ వస్తుంది.
The topic of importance for this week is antimicrobial resistance, a global health threat. It has been in news recently as WHO released Global Antibiotic Resistance Surveillance Report 2025, which has shown an alarming trends in antimicrobial resistance. In fact, 1 in every 6 bacterial infections were caused by bacteria which are resistant to antibiotics. India, China, and Pakistan together accounted for around 41% of global bloodstream infections, marking it as a major AMR hotspot. What is this antimicrobial resistance? Antimicrobial resistance occurs when microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, viruses, and parasites, they evolve into mechanisms where they resist the effects of these antimicrobial drugs, which are designed to kill them. Antibiotic resistance is one of the subset of antimicrobial resistance which are specific to bacteria resisting the antibiotics. India faces a severe superbug crisis, with hospital-acquired infections being a primary source of danger. Superbugs, strains of bacteria that are resistant to multi-antibiotics like E. coli, K. pneumonia, and P. aeruginosa. India carries one of the highest burdens of AMR, including antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis. Despite procuring a large percentage of necessary antibiotics, a higher percentage of infections are not properly treated, which highlights a gap between drug supply and actual access of effective treatment. What are the key global findings? 1 in every 6 bacterial infections worldwide is antibiotic resistance. Southeast Asia and Eastern Mediterranean regions have seen 1 in 3 infections, whereas Africa has around 1 in 5 infections. The most affected infections are urinary tract infections of 1 in 3 and bloodstream infections of around 1 in every 6 infections. The bacterial pathogens which are of major concern are E. coli. 40% of them are resistant, and K. pneumonia. 55% of them are resistant to AMRs. Hence, these are declared as superbugs. India-specific findings. India is among the top 3 contributors to global AMR data, with China and Pakistan. There is a high resistance seen in bloodstream infections and urinary tract infections as well as respiratory infections. Only 7% of patients with CRGN infections in India received appropriate treatments. India procured 80% of studied antibiotics but could treat only 7.8% of AMR cases effectively, indicating very poor stewardship. What are the causes and drivers of AMR in India? Health sector. In health sector, there has been an overprescription of antibiotics, the self-medication, and lack of diagnostic testing. In fact, for any particular problem, the people suggest take an antibiotic. So this heavy use of antibiotic has made the viruses or the bacteria resistant to antibiotics and the antimicrobes. Regulatory gaps. Over-the-counter sale of antibiotics and the weak enforcement of Schedule H1 drugs. There has been a poor infection control and overcrowding in hospitals as well as unsafe drinking water. Through agriculture and livestock, there has been a widespread antibiotic use in poultry and aquaculture as well as their feed. Pharmaceutical waste are getting discharged, especially in Hyderabad and Patancheru belt, which is a major environmental contamination. In India, there is a low health literacy, poverty, and a limited access to qualified healthcare sector, which also leads to antimicrobial resistance. There has been a rising temperatures and extreme weather aid bacterial survivals and spread, which also affects the AMR. What is the impact of this AMR? Health impact. There are around over 1 million deaths annually due to AMR, with around 5 million deaths linked indirectly. Routine infections and surgeries risk become untreatable, like C-sections, transplantations, etc. Economic impact. AMR could cause 3.8% reduction in global GDP by 2050. There has been a projected loss of around $100 trillion globally if it is unchecked. The social impact of AMR. It deepens health inequality. Low income, low and middle income countries bear the highest burden. It also weakens the progress towards SDG 3, that is good health and well-being. The global initiatives to combat AMR. WHO Global Action Plan on AMR, the framework for surveillance, stewardship and research regarding the AMR. GLASS, Global AMR and Use Surveillance System. This provides standardized data from 130 plus countries. UNGA declaration. It called for global action to reduce pharmaceutical pollution and antibiotic misuse. One Health approach. It integrates human, animal, and environmental health to manage AMR risk. What are the Indian initiatives? National Action Plan on AMR 2017. This focused on awareness, surveillance, infection prevention, and research and development. The second phase of this particular plan is under discussions. Operation Amrit. This is specifically conducted in Kerala. This targets over the counter antibiotic sales and builds prescription monitoring. Ban on irrational FDCs, that is fixed dose antibiotic combinations. This banned around 300 plus inappropriate fixed dose antibiotics combinations. ICMR AMR surveillance networks. This collects resistance data from tertiary hospitals across India. National AMR Hub. This coordinates One Health AMR surveillance. AMR Research and Innovation Fund. This supports the indigenous alternatives like phage therapy and rapid diagnostics. What are the challenges in India for AMR control? The fragmented surveillance and poor data integration. There has been a limited diagnostic capacity in India, hence, the empirical antibiotic use has been dominating. There is a weak intersector coordination between human, animal, and the environment. The low research and development investment in antibiotics and its alternatives. Insufficient enforcement of antibiotic sale resistance. What can be done? So, we have to strengthen the surveillance, expand the AMRSN to district level hospitals and veterinary settings, promote rational drug use, that is, implement the antimicrobial stewardship programs in all the hospitals irrespective of their locations, including the veterinary hospitals. Improve the sanitation. When you use safe water, waste management, then the infection control is in the healthcare sector. There shall be regulation of the pharmaceutical wastes. So effluent standards shall be enforced. Public awareness campaigns. Antibiotics are not magic bullets. This education has to be done at community levels as well as school levels, through which antibiotics shall be taken only after the prescription from doctors. Incentivize research. Public-private partnerships for new antibiotics, vaccines, and alternatives. Strengthen One Health implementation. That is, you have to integrate human, veterinary, and environmental data into a unified AMR monitoring system, as antibiotic resistance is caused due to excess use of antibiotics in humans, animals, as well as discharge into environments. Let's quickly look at the PYQs. The first question. Consider the following aircrafts: Rafale, MiG-29, Tejas, Mk-1. How many of the above are considered 5th generation fighter aircrafts? It asks of considering the following aircrafts: the Rafale, MiG-29, Tejas Mark 1 as 5th generation aircrafts. Rafale. It has been made by Dassault Aviation of France. It is 4.5 generation multi-role fighter jets. It has very advanced avionics and AECA radar, electronic warfare systems, and even some stealth features, but it's not a true stealth aircraft. Fifth generation fighters are defined by full stealth capability, advanced sensor fusion, supercruise ability, and network centric warfare systems. Hence, Rafale is not a fifth generation aircraft. MiG-29. It has been developed by Mikoyan Grivich in Russia. It is fourth generation air superiority aircraft. Air superiority fighter that entered service in 1980s. It has good performance and India has upgraded versions like MiG-29 UPG, but it lacks the stealth and integrated systems that would qualify it as a fifth generation jet. Then Tejas Mk1. It has been developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited in India. It's a lightweight, multi-role 4.5 generation fighter, full fly-by-wire controls and modern avionics. It represents India's technological progress in aviation, but again, it does not have the stealth, advanced sensor fusion or supercruise capabilities required for fifth generation classification. Hence, Rafale MiG-29 or Tejas are not fifth generation aircrafts. The second question. With reference to the agreement at the UNFCCC meeting in Paris in 2015, which of the following statements are correct? The agreement was signed by all member countries of the UN and it will go into effect in 2017. The agreement aims to limit the greenhouse gas emissions so that the rise in average global temperature by the end of the century does not exceed 2 degrees centigrade or even 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. Developed countries acknowledge their historical responsibility in global warming and committed to donate $1,000 billion a year from 2020 to help developing countries to cope with climate change. The question is about the Paris Agreement. The statement 1. The agreement was signed by all member countries of UN and it will go into effect in 2017. This is partially incorrect statement. While all the UN member countries did sign Paris Agreement, it did not came into effect in 2017. It actually got enforced on 4th November 2016 after the threshold of 55 countries representing at least 55% of global emissions ratified it. The agreement aims to limit greenhouse gas emissions so that the rise in average global temperature by the end of the century does not exceed 2 degrees centigrade or even 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. The Paris Agreement has set this goal of 2 degrees centigrade or even 1.5 above the pre-industrial levels. Developed countries acknowledge their historical responsibility in global warming and committed to donate $1,000 a year from 2020 to help developing countries to cope with climate change. This is an incorrect statement. Developed countries did not agree to provide climate finance, but the figure $1,000 billion per year is much higher than the actual commitment. The agreement talks about only $100 billion a year by 2020 to help developing nations adapt and to end climate change. But this was not acknowledged by the developed countries. Hence, only second statement is correct. If a major solar storm reaches the Earth, which of the following are the possible effects on Earth? GPS and navigation systems could fail, tsunamis could occur at equatorial regions, power grids could be damaged, intense auroras could occur over much of the Earth, forest fires could take place over much of the planet, orbits of satellite could be disturbed, shortwave radio communication of the aircraft flying over polar regions could be interrupted. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the question is about major solar storms or solar flares and their possible effects on Earth. A solar storm is a burst of energy and charged particles from Sun. When it reaches Earth, it interacts mainly with Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere, causing electromagnetic disturbances. The statement 1. GPS and navigation systems could fail. Yes, solar systems can cause geomagnetic disturbances which can interfere the GPS signals and satellite navigation systems. Tsunamis could occur at equatorial regions. Solar storms never affect the ocean tides or cause earthquakes. Hence, tsunamis cannot be occurred. Power grids could be damaged. Yes, solar systems can induce geomagnetically induced currents in power lines, which can damage the transformers and grids. Intense auroras could occur over much of the earth. Solar storms can cause spectacular auroras, that is northern and southern lights, and during stronger storms they can be seen at lower altitudes than usual. Forest fires could take place over much of the planet. Solar storms does not raise the temperatures, hence it does not ignite any forest fires. Orbits of the satellite could be disturbed. Yes, high energy particles can increase atmospheric drag on satellites, slightly altering their orbits. Shortwave radio communication of aircraft flying over polar regions could be interrupted. Yes, polar regions are particularly affected by geomagnetic storms and high waves or short waves. High frequency waves or shortwave radio communications can be disrupted. Hence, 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7 are correct statements. The next question. The most important strategy for conservation of biodiversity together with traditional human life is the establishment of biosphere reserves, botanical gardens, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries. Biosphere reserves. These are the areas that promote conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of natural resources, and support traditional human communities living in harmony with nature. They usually have three zones. Core zone, strictly protected for conservation. Buffer zone, limited human activities allowed. Transition zone, sustainable human settlements and economic activities. Hence, this directly aligns with the question's requirement of biodiversity plus traditional human life. What are botanical gardens? Botanical gardens are focused on plant conservation and research. Hence, it does not integrate human settlements or the traditional life. National parks. These areas are strictly protected for wildlife and biodiversity. Human activities are prohibited in this particular area. Wildlife sanctuaries. They are similar to national parks but slightly flexible with human presence. Mainly for wildlife protection but not for human and biodiversity integration. Hence, biosphere reserves, they balance biodiversity conservation and traditional human life. Consider the following states: Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Odisha. With reference to the states mentioned above, in terms of percentage of forest cover to the total area of the state, which of the following is correct ascending order? The approximate forest cover as per the India State Forest Report 2019. Madhya Pradesh has around 25% of the forest cover. Maharashtra has around 17%. Odisha has around 33% and Chhattisgarh has the highest of around 44% of the area. Hence, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha and Chhattisgarh can overuse and availability of antibiotics without doctor's prescription be contributors to the emergence of drug-resistant diseases in India. What are the available mechanisms for monitoring and control? Critically discuss the various issues involved. So, what are the different aspects that are to be addressed in this question? Introduction. First, define AMR briefly and then link it to the antibiotic misuse in India. Like, what are AMRs? We have already discussed that. Like, AMR occurs when microorganisms become resistant to drugs that were once effective. In India, overuse of antibiotics and easy availability of these antibiotics without prescriptions are major drivers of drug-resistant infections. And WHO also considers antimicrobial resistance as one of the top global health threats. Then discuss how overuse and OTC availability lead to drug resistance. So many people self-medicate for minor illnesses like cold, flu, where antibiotics are very ineffective. Pharmacies often sell these antibiotics without prescriptions. Hence, there is a very high misuse of these particular drugs. Patients frequently stop courses early, leaving the bacteria alive. Hence, they turn resistant to these particular drugs. Doctors also overprescribe antibiotics due to the patient pressure or lack of proper diagnostics. This results in multi-drug resistance like tuberculosis and other drug-resistant typhoid. Then discuss the mechanisms for monitoring and control of AMR. These can include National Action Plan on AMR, which promotes awareness, surveillance, rational use and research. Regulations of Schedule H1 drugs, which describe prescriptions for antibiotics, hospital infection control, the hygiene isolation, and the global cooperation for these particular issues. What are the critical issues and challenges? Weak enforcement of regulations, low public and healthcare provider awareness, limited diagnostic facilities leading to empirical antibiotic use, and various environmental factors like pharmaceutical and agricultural wastage. Then discuss way forward with awareness in conclusion, like strictly enforcing prescription regulations, public awareness campaigns, expand surveillance and research, promoting vaccines, hygiene and infection prevention. As India is one of the major contributor to AMR and antibiotic resistance, they require effective control and multi-pronged approach like regulation, awareness and surveillance, also research to public health. Also, you can try to send your answers to response@civiccentre.in for CivicCentre IAS Masters valuable feedback on your answers. Thank you.
CivicCentre IAS is offering Telangana Group 1 Prelims cum Mains classes as well as Andhra Pradesh Group 1 Prelims cum Mains classes in English medium for a period of 8 to 10 months. This also covers the complete NCERT textbooks and statewide textbooks. So, what are you waiting for? Learn through reverse engineering technique today. Admissions are in progress. Join now. Visit our website. Thank you.